It was a sunny morning in the quiet town of Willow Creek, California. The rays of sunlight filtered through the kitchen curtains, filling the space with a comforting warmth. Sarah stood by the stove, stirring a pot of oatmeal that was gently bubbling. The sweet aroma of cinnamon mixed with the smell of fresh coffee, creating a cozy atmosphere that enveloped the house. Tom, her husband, was sitting at the table, flipping through the newspaper. He looked up at Sarah, and a smile formed on his lips. "You know the best breakfast in the world is made by you, right?" he joked, a sparkle in his eyes. The simplicity of that morning was a reflection of the life they had built together, filled with small moments that brought happiness. "Oh, stop it. You only say that because you know I like cooking for you," Sarah replied, laughing. "But it's true. I'm not a chef. I just do the basics. You should try my homemade bread one of these days." "I'd love to. But for now, how about I go to the bakery and bring back some fresh bread?" Tom suggested, putting the newspaper aside. "I promise he'll be back in no time." Sarah looked at him, her heart warmed by the simplicity of the conversation. "Deal. The bakery is just a few blocks away. Don't forget to grab a loaf of bread, okay? You know I love making toast with butter." "Got it. He'll run over and be right back," Tom replied, standing up and giving Sarah a gentle kiss on the forehead. She watched as he grabbed his coat and headed out the door, waving to her before closing the entrance. The sun continued to shine, and Sarah returned to the kitchen, still smiling. As she prepared breakfast, she thought about their plans for the weekend, a hike on the park trail and a picnic in the afternoon. Life was good and she felt grateful for every moment with Tom. However, as the minutes passed, her happiness began to mix with a slight unease. What could be taking so long? Sarah glanced at the clock on the wall, and her concern started to grow. "He's never this late," she thought to herself, deciding it was time to make a phone call. She picked up the phone and dialed Tom's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. "Strange," she murmured, frowning. Anxiety grew in her chest, and she tried again. But the same thing happened. Maybe he ran into someone at the bakery or is chatting with a friend, she tried to convince herself. But as more time passed, her concern turned into discomfort. She walked over to the window and looked outside, observing the quiet street. The sun was still shining, but the beauty of the morning now seemed distant. "Where are you, Tom?" she whispered, unaware that her life was about to change forever. After an hour, Sarah decided she couldn't wait any longer. With her heart racing, she grabbed the car keys, determined to go to the bakery. "He might be running late, but I need to know," she thought as she left the house. As she got into the car, doubt and uncertainty accompanied her. What could have happened? Something was wrong, and she felt it in every fiber of her being. As she drove, Sarah's mind was filled with questions and fears. What should have been a simple trip to the bakery had become a source of anguish. When she arrived at the bakery, a sinking feeling hit her. She parked and got out of the car, noticing the closed entrance. "Why are the doors closed?" she thought, with worry growing by the second. She looked around, but there was no sign of Tom, no one on the sidewalk. She approached the door and tried to pull it, but it was really locked. "This can't be happening," she murmured, her anxiety rising even more. Sarah decided to ask a neighbor who was passing by. "Hi, do you know if the bakery is closed today?" The person nodded but didn't seem to have any idea where Tom might be. Desperation began to take hold of her. With a heavy heart, she returned to the car, her thoughts now full of uncertainties. "What is going on, Tom?" Sarah's heart was pounding as she walked toward the bakery. The sun was still shining brightly in the sky, but the light that had once brightened her day now seemed like a reminder of what was missing. Each step took her further away from the safety of her home and closer to the uncertainty that consumed her. When she arrived, she found the bakery's doors closed, with a "closed for renovation" sign hanging at the entrance. Frustration wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She stopped in front of the door, trying to process the situation. "What is happening here?" she murmured to herself, her eyes fixed on the sign. The silence of the street seemed to echo her confused thoughts. Sarah turned and saw a group of people who were regular customers at the bakery, but even they seemed oblivious to what really mattered. She approached one of the regular customers, an elderly man who always bought fresh bread in the morning. "Hi, do you know where Tom is?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The man shook his head, frowning. "Tom? He hasn't returned? Strange. I saw him leave to buy bread, but I didn't know he was taking so long. Have you tried calling him?" "Yes, several times. He doesn't answer." The worry in her chest grew like a storm about to break. The man nodded and said goodbye, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Feeling lost, she decided she needed to do something. When she returned home, her heart was racing with anxiety. She called the police, but the voice on the other end was a cold bucket of water on her hopes. "I'm sorry, Mom, but we need to wait a few more hours before declaring someone missing." "But he's been gone for hours. He's never this late." Sarah was almost in tears, frustration and despair mingling in her voice. "I understand your concern, but we can't do anything yet. We recommend you wait a little longer. If he doesn't return by evening, contact us again." The call ended, and Sarah felt helpless. What could she do in a situation like this? The house felt suffocating, and as she searched the rooms, the echo of her own thoughts became torture. Every object seemed a reminder of Tom's presence. The photographs on the wall, the socks scattered around the living room, even the smell of the coffee she had prepared earlier. Everything reminded her of him. That night, insomnia took over Sarah. Her body was exhausted, but her mind wouldn't stop. She searched the house again, looking for any clue that could explain Tom's sudden disappearance. It was then that, in a desk drawer, her eyes landed on a small piece of paper. With trembling hands, she pulled out the note, and upon opening it, she read the confusing words written there. "Sarah, if you're reading this, it means things didn't go as planned. I need you to trust me, even if everything seems lost. Don't worry, he'll be back. Remember what we always said about new beginnings." Sarah's heart raced. What did he mean by new beginnings? Why did he feel compelled to leave her a message like this? The note was a mixture of hope and anguish. While the message comforted her, it also left her more confused. What was really happening with Tom? Was he in danger, or was there something else she didn't know? The hours dragged on as she tried to understand the meaning of those words. Morning light filtered through the window, but Sarah couldn't find peace. With the note still in hand, she sat on the couch, the emptiness around her reflecting the uncertainty that now dominated her life. What would she do next? The only certainty she had was that she needed to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next day, Sarah woke up with a knot in her stomach and a renewed determination. The sun streamed through the window, but the light that once brought comfort now seemed almost cruel, highlighting her loneliness. After having breakfast, she picked up the phone and called Ethan, the private detective she had found the night before. The conversation was brief, but loaded with anticipation. "Hello, Sarah. How are you?" Ethan asked, his voice firm and calm. Better, I guess, but I need your help. As soon as possible," Sarah replied, feeling that with every word she spoke, a weight lifted off her shoulders. "Understood. He'll be at your house in an hour. We need to talk about what happened and what comes next," Ethan said, and the call ended. As she waited for the detective's arrival, Sarah walked around the house, observing the details that were once familiar. The table was still set, the smell of coffee still lingered in the air, but Tom's absence made everything oppressive. She remembered the last time he went out to buy bread, as if it were yesterday. The thought tormented her. Where could he be now? When Ethan arrived, he brought an aura of professionalism that Sarah needed at that moment. He was a tall man with dark hair and a serious expression. As soon as he entered, she led him to the living room. "Thank you for coming," Sarah said, trying to hide the anxiety in her voice. "Of course, let's get straight to the point. We need to find out what happened to Tom. Do you have any information you haven't shared?" Ethan asked, watching her closely. Sarah hesitated. The question reminded her of the note she found the night before, but she wasn't sure if she should reveal it yet. "I found a note from him, but I'm not sure if it's important." she admitted, looking down. Ethan leaned forward, interested. What did the note say? It didn't say much, just that he needed some time and that everything would be okay. But it doesn't make sense. He's never had the need to distance himself like this. Ethan frowned, thoughtful. It could be a sign that something else was going on. We'll need to investigate that. Do you know if Tom had any bank accounts? Any strange transactions? Sarah shook her head, confused. No, I don't know. He always handled the finances. I never thought that could be a problem. We need to check that. Would you have access to his phone? Ethan asked, already starting to make notes on his clipboard. Yes, I can get it. Sarah got up and went to the table where Tom usually left his phone. When she brought it back, she felt a mixture of emotions, anger, sadness, and confusion. She handed the device to Ethan, who began to review the messages. A few minutes passed in silence until Ethan stopped reading and looked at Sarah with a serious expression. Sarah, I found some messages that seem suspicious. There's a conversation with an unknown number. The language is cryptic, as if he was communicating about something important. Sarah's heart raced. Ethan's words echoed in her mind like a refrain. What do you mean by cryptic? She asked, anxiety taking over. Messages talking about a meeting, something he doesn't mention at home. It could be just a friend or something else. We need to investigate this thoroughly, Ethan said, the seriousness in his tone intensifying the tension in the room. This can't be true, Sarah murmured, shaking her head. I trusted him. The detective observed her with a sympathetic look. I understand how difficult this is, but we need to be objective. There could be much more at stake than you imagine. Sarah felt a wave of despair. What else didn't she know about Tom? What secrets was he hiding? The idea that her marriage might be built on lies left her paralyzed. What should we do now? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. We need to find more clues, and it might be time to talk to people close to him. A friend, maybe, Ethan suggested, already standing up. Jake, his best friend. I can talk to him, Sarah said, a new determination rising within her. Great, let's do that. And remember, no matter what you find out, you're not alone in this. I'm here to help, Ethan assured her, offering a bit of comfort amid the chaos. Sarah took a deep breath. The truth was coming, and she was determined to find it, no matter how painful the journey would be. Sarah was sitting in her car, parked in front of a small building with exposed bricks that looked like it had seen better days. The afternoon sunlight filtered through the leaves of the surrounding trees, but the beauty of the scene couldn't calm her restless heart. Detective Ethan had mentioned that this was one of the places Tom used to visit secretly, and the mere thought that her husband might have had such a deep secret left her shattered. With a deep sigh, she decided she needed to go inside and uncover the truth. Inside the building, the air was stuffy and dimly lit, with the smell of mold lingering in the air. Sarah moved cautiously, remembering Ethan's words. If Tom was here, he probably didn't want to be found. She allowed herself a moment of hesitation, but the pain of betrayal and the need for answers pushed her forward. As she walked down the narrow hallway, her eyes fixed on a partially open door at the end. It's now or never, she murmured to herself, taking a deep breath before pushing the door open. What she found on the other side left her speechless. A small room, with walls covered in photographs and newspaper clippings, looked like a planning space. In the center, there was a computer turned on, and the screen displayed a recording. Her heart raced as she recognized the woman appearing in the video. She was a young woman with long dark hair and a smile that seemed all too familiar. Tom was sitting next to her, laughing and talking, in a moment that seemed intimate and cozy. No. Sarah shook her head, trying to reject the reality unfolding before her eyes. The pain of betrayal consumed her. She felt her world crumble, and tears began to slip down her cheeks. How could you, Tom? She whispered, as if he could hear. Ethan had told her that Tom had secrets, but she had never imagined that would include another woman. The video continued to play, and Sarah found herself paralyzed, absorbing every word, every laugh that echoed in the small room. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a brutal deviation from the life they had built together. With a sudden movement, she turned off the computer and left the room, her mind spinning with a flood of emotions. She needed some time alone, a space to process what she had just discovered. However, as she stepped back, something made her hesitate. A small notebook left on the table caught her attention. It was a planner, and when she opened it, she saw that the pages were filled with notes and dates that seemed to indicate meetings. Every word written there was a punch to the gut. I can't believe you were meeting with her, she thought, as her mind filled with questions. What else are you hiding, Tom? Feeling suffocated by the weight of the betrayal, she decided to return home. The drive back was a whirlwind of thoughts. What was real? What was an illusion? And more importantly, did she still love Tom? The connection they had shared now seemed like a distant echo, overshadowed by the reality of his choices. When she finally arrived home, a sense of emptiness enveloped her. The house, which used to be a refuge, now felt like a prison. As she crossed the doorway, something caught her attention. A new note from Tom was on the table in the living room. The paper was crumpled, as if he had left it there in a moment of desperation. With trembling hands, she unrolled the note and read, "Sarah, if you're reading this, it's because things have changed. I need a fresh start." The words hit her like a blow. "Fresh start?" she repeated out loud, disbelief growing inside her. "Are you running away, Tom? Or are you just hiding?" Confusion took hold of her heart. What did this mean for them, for what they had built? She sat down on the couch, the note still in her hands, as tears freely flowed down her cheeks. The pain of betrayal mingled with the need to understand what was really happening. "I don't know what to do now," she murmured, the loneliness of the house closing in on her. Shadows danced on the walls, reflecting the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. What she feared most was coming true. The love she felt for Tom was being tested in a way she never imagined possible. And as night fell, Sarah realized that the journey to uncover the truth was just beginning. Sarah felt a knot in her stomach as she walked alongside Ethan down the brightly lit street. The detective, with his firm posture and attentive gaze, seemed to sense the inner turmoil of the woman beside him. What should have been an ordinary day had now become a tense investigation filled with uncertainties. With each step, Sarah's mind whirled around the image of Tom, the husband who had vanished from her life like a ghost. "Are you okay, Sarah?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence that stretched between them. The concern in his voice was genuine, and it made her hesitate for a moment. "I don't know, Ethan. All of this is so surreal. I never imagined that Tom could be involved in something like this." She looked down at the ground, her trembling hands clasped in front of her. "I understand. It's hard to deal with the possibility that the person we love isn't who we thought they were." Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. "But we need to find the truth. That might be the key to finding him." After a few hours of investigation, Ethan revealed some disturbing information. He had found records indicating that Tom was involved with a criminal group. "He owes them a large amount of money, Sarah. This isn't just an ordinary debt. These people don't play around." Sarah's heart raced, the anguish filling her chest. What does that mean? Is he in danger? The thought that Tom could be in such a dangerous situation left her paralyzed. Love and betrayal intertwined, creating a dilemma that consumed her. Ethan looked at her seriously. "It means we need to act quickly. If he's involved with these individuals, he's at risk of being found at any moment. We need to confront him as soon as we have a concrete lead on where he might be." The urgency in Ethan's words made Sarah feel her resolve strengthen. "I can't just leave him like this. He's my husband, even with all these secrets. We need to find him before it's too late." "Then let's go. What do you know about the places he usually frequents?" Ethan began jotting down information in his notebook, but Sarah hesitated. The image of Tom in her mind was now complex, filled with doubts and suspicions. He always talked about a friend, someone named Marco. Sometimes he would go out to meet him, but I never really knew what they did. The memory of Tom's smile when he mentioned his friend brought a pang of nostalgia and pain. Let's find this Marco. He might have information that can help us, Ethan suggested, his voice firm and determined. As they headed to the place where Marco was supposedly located, Sarah struggled against the avalanche of emotions. What if he's no longer in contact with Marco? What if he's in danger? Anxiety consumed her, as if an immense weight was pressing on her heart. We need to have faith, Sarah. Every clue we gather brings us closer to the truth. I won't promise it'll be easy, but together we can find out what really happened, Ethan responded, his gaze fixed on the horizon, determined. The journey to find Tom's friend seemed endless, and with each passing minute, the uncertainty grew. When they finally arrived at the location, a small and bustling cafe on the corner of a street, Sarah felt her heart race. She wasn't just searching for answers, she was searching for the life she once knew, the security that had been abruptly ripped from her hands. Ethan pushed open the cafe door, and the smell of fresh coffee filled their senses. The place was crowded, but among the tables, she spotted a man who matched Marco's description. He was chatting animatedly with a group of friends, but his eyes drifted toward them for a moment. Let's go. Let's ask him, Ethan said, gently guiding her toward the table. What if he doesn't know anything? What if he refuses to talk? The fear was evident in Sarah's voice, but the detective encouraged her with a firm look. We have to try, Sarah. It's our best chance. With her heart in her throat, Sarah approached the table, feeling the adrenaline course through her veins. Whatever she found there, she knew she was about to uncover another piece of the puzzle that was her marriage, and maybe the truth about Tom. Sarah was in a small cafe located on a deserted street in a neighboring town, her heart pounding harder with each passing second. She had finally managed to locate Tom after days of anguish and uncertainty. When she spotted him sitting at a table in the back, her mind wavered between hope and pain. Tom looked like a different man. His expression was marked by worry and guilt. "Tom," she called out, almost in a whisper, as she approached the table. He looked up, and for a brief moment, the sparkle in his eyes made her feel a shiver of nostalgia. But soon, the shadow of what he had done loomed over that moment. "Sarah." He stood up, but he didn't have the courage to take a step forward. The silence hung between them like an old friend, uncomfortable and heavy. "Why did you do this?" Sarah's voice trembled, but she tried to stay strong. "Why did you just disappear?" "I did it to protect you," Tom replied, his voice sounding lower than usual. "There were people, dangerous people after me. I didn't want you to get hurt." "Hurt? You hurt me so much more by leaving." The despair began to turn into anger. "I can't believe you left me without a word, without an explanation." Tom lowered his head, and Sarah saw his hands clench into fists on the table. "I never wanted to hurt you. I swear. I just didn't know how to deal with it. When the debts started piling up, I felt trapped. I thought that if I ran away, you'd be safe. But what about your lies and what you were doing?" She hesitated, recalling the messages and the secret account. "What else haven't you told me? I got involved in things I deeply regret. But now I'm here, and I want to make things right," Tom said, lifting his eyes to her. "Please, give me a chance." At that moment, as emotions swirled, Ethan entered the cafe. He was dressed casually, but his expression was resolute. Sarah recognized him immediately and for a moment felt a mix of relief and apprehension. "Sarah, I followed you," he said, approaching them. "We need to talk." "About what?" Tom questioned, his defensive tone making the atmosphere more tense. "About you, Tom," Ethan replied, not breaking eye contact. "I'm an undercover agent. I've been investigating your activities in connection with the fraud scheme. You can't just disappear and expect this to go away." The revelation hit Sarah like a blow. She looked from Ethan to Tom, confusion taking over her mind. You're saying he's being investigated? Why? What else do you know?" "I know Tom owes a lot of money to people who don't play around. He's gotten himself into a deep hole," Ethan explained, his voice now softer. And if he doesn't turn himself into the police, the consequences could be disastrous. I'm not turning myself in, Tom protested, his voice filled with desperation. I can't do that. I can't leave you, Sarah. I love you. His words echoed in Sarah's mind, but the reality of the situation began to unfold before her. The pain of betrayal and confusion left her paralyzed as she tried to process everything. Love isn't enough to fix this, Tom, she said, sadness evident in her voice. You've put yourself in a situation that could destroy our lives. Tom took a deep breath, the struggle visible on his face. Maybe the only way to protect you now is to turn myself in, he murmured, determination starting to form in his eyes. Don't do it, Sarah pleaded, fear taking hold of her. Please, don't turn yourself in. It's the only option I see, he replied, his voice firm but with a touch of desperation. I can't keep running. It's only going to make things worse for us. As he spoke, Sarah felt her world crumble. The love she had for Tom was now entangled with lies and betrayals. So you're going to turn yourself in? She asked, her voice choked. I need to face the consequences of my actions. I can't drag you into this, he affirmed, sadness evident in his gaze. Silence filled the space, and Sarah looked out at the horizon, her mind full of thoughts. She knew that, regardless of Tom's choice, her world would never be the same. Love, as strong as it was, could not erase the secrets that had piled up between them. And as she realized this, a deep sadness settled in her heart. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep following more like it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Radio Life Stories. Your subscription helps us bring more heartfelt and inspiring stories to you. And of course, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay with us and share these stories with your loved ones. See you in the next video.